So it's time to talk about Karate Kid Legends, and boy, what? Something's missing. Okay, well, if something's missing, I might have an idea to remedy that. Give me 2 seconds. Alright, we're gonna spin the other way. Okay, it's a tight space in here, guys. That's why we're renovating soon. Give me 1 second. Yeah! Told you guys, I come prepared. Yeah, I'm a Karate Kid, alright. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today, yes, we're talking all about Karate Kid Legends, which is, I believe, the 5th movie in the Karate Kid franchise, and it's distributed by Sony Pictures, of course. So thank you guys so much for giving me the chance to watch this in a packed Dolby Cinema theater at my local AMC with a lot of fans. And guys, I am not one of them. It's not that I don't like Karate Kid, it's just, it's okay. But if you are a fan of the film, it is in theaters May 30th and directed by Jonathan Entwistle, starring a huge cast, of course, led by Ben Wang, who plays Fong, Jackie Chan, who plays Mr. Han, Macchio makes an appearance as Daniel LaRusso, and we have Sadie Stanley as Mia. Now, the film itself is not necessarily connected to the other movies, but there are nods to them, so you need to watch the first Karate Kid. You should probably watch Karate Kid 2, and if you have some general knowledge of Cobra Kai, maybe it helps, but this movie is like years after the events of Cobra Kai, if I'm not mistaken, so not too much connective tissue to the series. But if you're like me, actually you're probably not like me, because I tried with Cobra Kai and I just could not get into it, but at least it wasn't really too necessary for this film, which, if you don't know much about it, let's talk about it now. After kung fu prodigy Fong relocates to New York City with his mother after she gets a job at a local hospital, he attracts unwanted attention from a local karate champion and embarks on a journey to enter the ultimate karate competition with the help of Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso. Yes, of course, Daniel's son from the original Karate Kid movies. Now, the film is, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in with an open mind, because the early buzz for this movie wasn't very positive, but that didn't sway me one way or the other. I just wanted to see a really fun Karate Kid movie that had some awesome fight choreography. But did I get that? Well, we're going to talk about that in 2 seconds. Before we do that, if it is your first time here at the channel, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, like this video, and get loud in the comments below, and let me know, are you a big Karate Kid fan? And if you are, which movie is your favorite in the franchise? And yes, it's okay if it is Legends, which we're going to get into right now. So let's go ahead and talk about the positives, because, you know, I like to start off on an optimistic note, and I got this dope headband that makes me feel pretty good. So let's get into, yes, my first positive, which is, boy, oh boy, our two leads here are so good together. And I'm talking about Ben Wang and Sadie Stanley. They have really good chemistry on screen, and it was very much giving this adolescent teen drama at some points, but it worked with these two actors. Admittedly, the film did start off a little rough, and I'm not saying it smoothed out entirely as we went deeper into the movie, but as we did get deeper into the film, Ben Wang and Sadie Stanley became more comfortable with one another, and I think they were more comfortable on screen. So Ben Wang, I don't know much about him, but at first I thought, this is a little rough, you know what I mean? But he got better as the film went on, and I love their scenes together. But when you add a third actor to the mix, Joshua Jackson, who plays Victor, this is Sadie Stanley's character, Mia's dad, he's so darn good in this movie. I mean, there are moments of this film where I was digging it with these three together. I almost wanted more of that. Yes, of course, they got to give us nods to previous Karate Kid movies, and they got to play to the nostalgia of the fan base, but I kind of like this like new age Karate Kid story more than I like them sort of diving deeper into the bag of the past. And at times, the film really does tend to focus, even if it's just for a little while, on subplots that actually work better than the main plot. There's one in particular that I really enjoyed, which was Lee teaching Victor, a retired boxer, how to, well, get ready and train for an upcoming fight to basically save his business and pay off these loan sharks. I think it was like Sensei O'Shea, if I'm not mistaken, these villains of the movie. His son Connor, or just this kid he's training. Yeah, his name was Connor. And boy, they are out for blood. And they're like, Victor, if you don't pay up, son. But he's like, I'm gonna get the money. So he goes and he boxes, but not without the help of Lee, who teaches him all about kung fu and the 1-inch punch. So it was a really cool subplot that didn't last too long. I want to say it probably lasted about 20 minutes, and to me, that actually could have been the bigger focal point of the film. Young kung fu artist teaching old boxer new tricks. That sounds much more appealing to me, honestly. And I do believe there is a good film in here somewhere, because there are times where I was completely vibing with the movie and falling in love with the romantic aspect of the film too. This could have been a great vehicle for Ben Wang. I don't think it's a bad one. It shows, at least to me, that this kid's got the chops. Like, he's very good in a film like this, a coming of age type film, right? He's really nice in this setting. I just wish maybe they did focus a little bit more on Lee, but we're in the positives. We'll get to the negatives soon. But speaking of Lee, of course, in any Karate Kid movie, your main character needs to be able to kick butt. And he definitely does. I'm fairly certain that he was doing all of his own fight scenes. And kudos to him, because Ben Wang, bro, this kid is talented. Now, were all of the fight scenes great? No, but there was, in my opinion, one that separated itself from the rest. It was the alleyway brawl between Lee and the O'Shea loan sharks coming to collect. You know what I mean? And my goodness, there was one scene where this man, Lee, or I just say it, Ben Wang, was running on these dumpsters, and he jumped on one of the fire escape ladders, and he like does this wall walk, just flips around and roundhouse kicks this dude in the face. And I thought, more of this in Karate Kid Legends, because this, to me, is what we should have been getting all along, and that came at the middle of the film, closer to the start of the second act. But still, I was thinking, my goodness, this is actually excellent stuff. We don't really get to that level again even in the final fight between Lee and Connor, I believe his name is, but I did love that scene, and that was the best choreographed fight scene of the entire film. And while I don't think this movie was always communicating directly to my generation, I did appreciate some of the, well, undertones that would probably speak to a Gen Z or Gen Alpha audience member. So I do understand that movies are not always made for me, and that's okay. There were some elements where I was like, okay, a 50-year-old probably wrote this script and they don't know anything about what Gen Z is saying these days, but for the most part, it did feel kind of nice to see, just like, young love on display, or, a kid who's just dealing with struggles at school. It reminded me of, when I was growing up a bit in terms of the tones of the film. So it was nice in that regard. So at least it understood its audience sometimes, but not always. And, well, I guess that's maybe a good time to get into the negatives, because, guys, Karate Kid Legends is not what I would consider a terrible movie. It's very rough. It's got its moments, but it's too rough for me to say that this is a winner. This movie struggles out of the gates, especially in the editing department, and unfortunately, it does not get any better. For me, it felt like this movie was sloppily put together. I don't know why this movie felt like they were just slicing at the wrong moments, and you can just tell that it was going from scene to scene poorly. The transitions did not do the movie any justice, because as I'm watching it, there's a moment where you see Lee and he's struggling, and then boom, we're right to the next day, and then 5 days pass, and then romantic moment, but then we gotta cut out of that real fast, and then crazy soundtrack choice, which we'll get into in a little bit. It just did not feel like this film had a smoothed out plan. It did feel like Frankenstein together at some points, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is not just me, right? So I look around and I talk to some fellow critics, and they almost felt the same way too. So the movie itself could have been refined, and I do think if you got to delay it again, because it was already delayed once, just do it again to like work out these kinks. But the editing in this movie is some of the worst editing I've seen all year. And when it comes to the music choices, the soundtrack here is really, really awful. Now, I'm not saying the songs are awful, okay? But I am saying the needle drop moments and how they chose to influx, sort of like the diegetic and not diegetic sounds. I'm like, okay, we're trying to get cute here, I get it. But then they play with this one sound effect. You know, the record scratching sound effect where, you know, maybe a character is listening to some music and they're like just walking around and they bump into a bully or whatever and the headphones fly off and you hear the record scratch or whatever. That record scratch happened probably a good 6 to 7 times throughout the film. I've not heard that sound effect used more than I did in Karate Kid Legends. And it takes me out of the movie entirely. It's almost trying too hard to get the audience to laugh. You know, there are natural moments where audiences will laugh, so maybe there's a break in the dialogue. But every time that sound effect came up, I thought, yeah, this movie's not confident that what's happening on screen is funny enough, so let's add in a sound effect. So the sound design was bad, the soundtrack was really bad. I just really, really wish that maybe they were a little bit smarter about letting it be silent. Let the environment and the ambient noise sort of take over. That could have been funnier on its own, but when you have really bad song choices and unfortunately really bad sound design, it really did just break the immersion for me. And when it comes to the story, I felt like it was a bit too messy as well. It just cannot commit, like the director and the screenwriters could not commit to what makes this movie tick. And for me, they should have focused more on Lee, his past trauma with his brother. They should have focused on Lee and Victor's subplot, and maybe even more so on the romance between Mia and Lee. But instead, the movie often rehashes story elements and plot points from previous Karate Kid storylines. And I'm thinking, here we go again? Like, guys, come on. At this point, if you don't know what happens in the Karate Kid, I mean, I can tell you, and they tried it again in 2010 with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith, and that didn't work. And they at times tried it here too. In those moments when they happen, I thought, no, don't break away from what's working here. Stop this. I get it, you're trying to appeal to nostalgia and the audiences that are older, but we've seen the story before. It's okay to be a little different. And then there were so many moments where I felt the film was rushing to get to the end of the movie, which is the tournament, and then Lee, of course, fights Connor. But guys, even the tournament scene was completely rushed. Like, the movie did not spend time in areas it needed to spend time in, and it rushed through areas in which it needed to slow down. So, I don't know. This movie just could not find a pace that worked for it, and I felt it all the way through. Is it a long movie? No. So it's not like an hour and 50 minutes of a rocky road. But for an hour and 34 minutes, I get it. You gotta breeze through some things, but why not just spend a little bit more time? Add an extra 15 minutes to the movie. You know, give us a little bit of marinating during scenes. Instead, no, we get a really dramatic moment and boom, we're popped out of it immediately. It doesn't really make for a great film. And honestly, it's what we come to expect from a lot of streaming films too. And sometimes the way this was edited and the way it was put together reminded me of a Netflix type of film. I also had an issue with how they misused some actors like Ming-Na Wen and even at times Jackie Chan. They gave them some lines that, brother, I'm telling you, listen, we know both of them can act, but in this movie, they were saying it through their teeth. You know, it felt lazy. I mean, Ming-Na Wen is a legend. I love her and she's a great actress, but she's completely misused in this movie. I mean, you know, you cast Ming-Na Wen, you gotta give her more screen time. And at least give her some time as a character to develop a little bit so that her emotional moments with Lee are warranted. That was not the case in this movie. And when it comes to Jackie Chan, we know he's a legend. He's my favorite martial artist, and this dude is incredible. But even with his character, at times, yes, some really loving moments between him and Lee. But in other moments, I'm like, why are they giving him the most generic lines in this movie? It felt too forced and unfortunately not natural enough to make these moments, I even would say, believable. You know what I mean? I wanted these moments to feel more grounded sometimes, but when you get a really, really bad line of dialogue to spout out, I don't know, I have to blame the writing here because we know both of them can act, so to me it really is the writing and possibly the directing. And if you're wondering, how's Ralph Macchio? Well, listen guys. When he first appeared, our crowd heartily applauded. And I was concerned at that point. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not here to say our audience is reflective of the whole. But my goodness, no one really reacted to Daniel being back. And I think it's because Cobra Kai sort of took away the allure of him being like a returning cameo. He's really been around for a minute with Cobra Kai, so this is not a surprise. We knew he was going to be in the movie, but to me, he was sadly phoning it in. He probably gave one of the worst performances, I would say, of the movie. I know that might be controversial, but I just wasn't a fan of his acting in this movie and did not feel like he left an impact. There's even a cameo in this film that just felt so forced. I don't know, you guys. To me, the movie works best when you're focusing on the new storylines. So I guess let's get into my final thoughts here, because with all those negatives and even with the positives that I gave, the movie itself is at its best when we're focused on Lee, Mia, and heck, even Victor. And that's not a coincidence. New characters, new storylines, it worked. But we don't get that often enough. They really do try to cater a lot to the nostalgia of this franchise and its fans. And the movie's like just sloppily put together. The editing is rough, and the film has no pace that is consistent from start to finish. So while the movie is not the worst that I would say I've seen all year, I don't know. Why was it so rough? Why couldn't have we should have been getting a fun movie that I would be like, heck yeah, this is a good summer movie. And it had some elements that was making me emotional, right? You know, when we're talking about like, hey, is Mia worth fighting for? And he's like, yeah, she is. Like, it's so dope, you know? Like, listen, I feel you, Lee. I feel you when you have someone to fight for it. In sports, I should love this stuff, and I just didn't love it, you know? And I do think it's the editing, and no amount of humor could have helped me gloss over the fact that this film is just, it's too sloppily put together. And I hate to say it, but if you do wait for streaming, because I love the theatrical experience, I do, but if you do wait for streaming, I wouldn't blame you. So yes, you guys, Karate Kid Legends is a film that, even if I had to rate it, I would give you 2 roundhouse kicks out of 5. Okay, wait, 2.5 out of 5. Listen, I gave Lilo and Stitch a 2.5 out of 5. This movie's not worse than Lilo and Stitch. I'd say it's like almost neck and neck, but like a little bit better. I don't think the summer movie season is by any chance a failure, but so far I don't feel like it's been so great. So Karate Kid Legends, yeah, it's a film that I wish was a lot better, because there are some things to love in this movie, and there is a better movie in here somewhere. It just wasn't reflected in the final product. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Karate Kid Legends, again in theaters May 30th. So when you see it, let me know in the comments below what you think of this film. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And hey, even if you do, it's okay, just as long as you hit the subscribe button and stick around, because we got a lot of movies to cover this summer. Did that rhyme? I don't know. But y'all, thank you so much again for sticking with me, checking out this review, and tuning in. So until next time, God bless you guys, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Can I take this off? I think I tied it too tight. I don't know. I'm just a little lightheaded. Just kidding. I'm keeping this thing on all day. Give me a break. You kidding me?